I had just come home, buzzing with excitement. In my hand, I held 2 tickets to a concert that Kate and I had missed 20 years ago. It was our favorite band, the one whose music had been the soundtrack to our early years together. I could already picture her face lighting up with joy. As I stepped through the front door, Kate was standing in the hallway. She didn't rush to greet me as usual. Instead, she wore a strange, distant expression. I ignored the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine and walked over to her with a big smile. "Hey, I've got a surprise for you," I said, holding out the tickets. She took them without looking at me, her eyes fixated on the slips of paper in her hands. Then she did something that I will never forget. She sighed deeply, as if carrying the weight of the world, and handed the tickets back to me. "Noman, we need to talk," she said quietly. My heart skipped a beat. Those words, the harbinger of bad news. We moved to the kitchen table, the place where we had shared countless meals and conversations. I sat down, my excitement replaced by a growing sense of dread. "I don't know how to say this, but I want to be with someone else," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It was as if the ground beneath me had given way. I felt myself falling into a void. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Kate and I had been together for 22 years. We had met in college, fallen in love, and built a life together. How could she want someone else? Who? I managed to choke out. "His name is Jason. We met at work. It's not just a fling, Noman. I care about him deeply." Her words sliced through me like a knife. Jason, a name I had never heard before, now a symbol of my heartbreak. I sat there, numb, as she explained how they had grown close over the past year, how he had been there for her in ways I hadn't. "I'm so sorry, Noman. I never meant to hurt you," she said, tears streaming down her face. I wanted to scream, to shout, to demand why. But instead, I sat in silence, my mind reeling. Memories of our life together flooded my thoughts. Our wedding day, the birth of our children, the vacations, the quiet evenings at home. How had we gotten here? "We need to talk to Emily and Michael," I said finally, my voice hollow. Emily and Michael, our children, were our pride and joy. Telling them would be the hardest part. We gathered them that evening, and with heavy hearts we explained the situation. The looks on their faces broke me all over again. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I felt like a stranger in my own life. Kate slept in the guest room, and the house, once filled with warmth and love, felt cold and empty. I kept thinking about our past, searching for signs I might have missed, and moments where I could have done things differently. The next day, Kate asked if I would meet Jason. She thought it might help. Reluctantly, I agreed. When I met him, he seemed decent enough, respectful, and even remorseful. But no matter how hard he tried to justify their relationship, it didn't make the betrayal any less painful. We decided to take some time apart. Kate moved in with a friend, leaving me alone in our house. Friends and family rallied around me, offering support and a shoulder to cry on. I was grateful, but deep down I felt an overwhelming sense of loss and failure. In the weeks that followed, I sought help from a therapist. Talking about my feelings helped me navigate the emotional storm. I realized that I had to let go of the past to move forward. Kate and I eventually divorced. It was the most painful decision of my life, but I knew it was necessary. I moved into a new home, a place where I could start fresh. It was strange and lonely at first, but slowly I began to find solace in solitude. I picked up old hobbies, started new ones, and rediscovered passions that had been buried under years of routine and responsibility. 1 year later, I met Sarah. She was different from Kate in every possible way, and that's what drew me to her. As we spent more time together, I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could find happiness again. The journey was long and arduous, but in the end, I emerged stronger and more self-aware. Kate's revelation had shattered my world, but it also set me on a path to rediscovering myself. And for that, I would always be grateful. The days following Kate's revelation were a blur of emotions. I found myself oscillating between anger, sadness, and disbelief. The house felt unbearably quiet without her presence, and every corner seemed to echo with memories of our life together. I needed answers, clarity, and anything to make sense of the chaos that had upended my world. I spent hours in our home office, surrounded by old photo albums and mementos of our past. I flipped through pictures from our wedding day, the smiles on our faces a stark contrast to the current reality. I found a photo of us on our honeymoon in Hawaii, laughing as we posed by the beach. How had everything changed so drastically? In my quest for understanding, I began to scrutinize our recent years together. Had there been signs of her unhappiness that I had missed? I remembered how we had slowly drifted into routines, our conversations becoming more about logistics than dreams and aspirations. We had become comfortable, perhaps too comfortable, in our roles as parents and partners. One evening, as I sat alone with my thoughts, I decided to confront Kate. I needed to hear her side, to know why she felt compelled to seek solace in another man's arms. I called her, and she agreed to meet. We met at a quiet cafe, the kind we used to frequent when we first started dating. The familiarity of the place brought a pang of nostalgia. Kate looked different, more composed, yet there was a sadness in her eyes. We sat down, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. "I've been thinking a lot," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to understand, Kate. Why Jason? Why now?" She sighed, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. "Noman, it's not something that happened overnight. I've been feeling disconnected for a long time. We've both changed, and I guess I was looking for something I felt was missing." I listened as she described her feelings of isolation, how she felt taken for granted, and how Jason had provided the emotional connection she craved. It was painful to hear, but I knew there was truth in her words. I had been so caught up in work and responsibilities that I hadn't noticed her slipping away. "I'm sorry, Kate," I said, my voice breaking. "I wish I had seen this coming. I wish I had been there for you." She reached across the table and took my hand. "It's not all your fault, Noman. We both let things slide. I should have talked to you sooner." That night, I drove home with a heavy heart but a clearer mind. Understanding her perspective didn't make the pain go away, but it helped me see that our relationship had been a two-way street. We both had our share of blame. The next few weeks were about finding a new normal. We agreed that it was best for Kate to move out temporarily. She stayed with a friend while we figured out the logistics of our separation. The kids took the news hard. Emily, our eldest, was particularly devastated. At 18, she was old enough to understand, but not yet equipped to handle the emotional fallout. Michael, only 14, retreated into himself, spending hours in his room. I tried to be there for them, but I was struggling too. We all were. I found myself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, the weight of the world pressing down on me. I missed the comfort of Kate beside me, the way her presence had been a constant reassurance. One afternoon, Emily came to me in tears. "Dad, why is this happening? I thought you and Mom were happy." I pulled her into a hug, my heart aching for her. "I don't know, sweetie. Sometimes people grow apart. But we both love you and Michael very much. That will never change." To cope, I threw myself into work. My colleagues noticed the change in me, but I kept the details to myself. I wasn't ready to share my turmoil with the world. One evening, as I was cleaning out the garage, I found an old box filled with letters and cards Kate and I had written to each other over the years. I sat down and read through them, tears streaming down my face. Each letter was a testament to the love we had shared, a love that now seemed so distant. It was during one of these late-night reflections that I decided to seek help. I made an appointment with a therapist, hoping to untangle the mess of emotions inside me. Talking to a professional helped. I began to see that I needed to heal, not just for myself, but for my children too. Kate and I continued to communicate, mostly about the kids and practical matters. We were civil, even friendly at times, but the intimacy we once shared was gone. She had started seeing Jason more openly, and while it hurt, I knew I had to accept it. The day our divorce was finalized, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. We had been through so much together, but now it was time to move on. I moved into a smaller house closer to my work, a place that would be mine alone. The first few months were hard. I often found myself reaching for my phone to call Kate, only to remember that those days were over. But slowly I began to find a new rhythm. I started cooking again, something I had always enjoyed but neglected over the years. I took up running, finding solace in the steady rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement. I spent more time with Emily and Michael, trying to be the best father I could be under the circumstances. We had movie nights, went on weekend trips, and I made sure to be there for their milestones. It was during one of these trips that I realized something important. Despite the pain and heartache, life was moving forward. I was moving forward. And though the future was uncertain, I felt a glimmer of hope. I wasn't just surviving. I was starting to live again. The decision to meet Jason was not one I made lightly. It had been a few weeks since Kate and I had agreed to temporarily live apart. The kids were adjusting, albeit slowly, and I was grappling with my new reality. When Kate suggested that I meet Jason, she thought it might help me understand her decision better. Reluctantly, I agreed. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a park in town. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon, the kind of day that once would have seen Kate and me picnicking with the kids. As I drove to the park, my stomach churned with a mix of anger, fear, and curiosity. I had no idea what to expect from this meeting. I spotted Jason easily. He was sitting on a bench, looking around nervously. He was younger than I expected, probably in his late 30s, with an athletic build and a neatly trimmed beard. He looked up as I approached, standing to greet me. "Norman?" he asked, extending a hand. I nodded, shaking his hand stiffly. "Jason." We sat down, an awkward silence hanging between us. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Why don't you start by telling me how this all happened?" I said, my voice colder than I intended. Jason nodded, looking genuinely uncomfortable. "First, I want to say I'm sorry for the pain this has caused you. I never intended to come between you and Kate. Yet here we are," I replied, unable to mask the bitterness. He sighed. "I know. Kate and I started working together a little over a year ago. At first, we were just colleagues. But as we spent more time together, we started talking about more than just work. She confided in me about her feelings, about how distant things had become between you two. I listened, and, well, one thing led to another. Hearing him talk about my wife's feelings, her loneliness, and their growing connection was like a punch to the gut. But I forced myself to stay calm, to listen. "She deserves to be happy," Jason continued, "and she believes she can be with me. I know it doesn't make this any easier, but I care about her deeply." I looked at him, trying to see what Kate saw. He seemed sincere, earnest even, but it didn't make the betrayal any less painful. "Do you love her?" I asked bluntly. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "I do." I nodded, digesting this information. "And what about my kids? Have you thought about how this affects them?" "Of course," Jason said. "I know this is incredibly hard on Emily and Michael. I want to do everything I can to make this transition easier for them. I care about them too." His words hit a sore spot. My kids were my world, and the thought of another man stepping into their lives was almost unbearable. But I knew this wasn't about replacing me. It was about finding a way to coexist for their sake. We talked for a while longer, discussing practicalities and boundaries. It was strange and uncomfortable, but by the end of our conversation, I felt a slight shift. Meeting Jason face to face humanized him. He wasn't just the faceless adversary I had built up in my mind. He was a man who, like me, had feelings and flaws. When I left the park, I felt a strange sense of relief. It didn't erase the hurt, but it did offer a semblance of understanding. Kate's choice to be with Jason was still painful, but now I could see it through a slightly different lens. Over the next few weeks, the dynamic between Kate, Jason, and me began to take shape. Kate and I continued to communicate for the sake of the kids, and slowly, a fragile peace started to emerge. Jason respected our boundaries, and while it was never easy seeing him with Kate, I focused on what was best for Emily and Michael. The kids, especially Emily, were still struggling. One evening she came to me, her eyes red from crying. "Dad, I hate this. I hate what's happening to our family." I hugged her tightly, my heart breaking for her. "I know, sweetheart. I hate it too. But we're going to get through this together. No matter what happens, I'm always here for you and your brother." Talking to a therapist helped me navigate these conversations, giving me tools to support my children through this turbulent time. I learned to listen more and offer reassurance without false promises. One day, while out for a run, I had an epiphany. I had spent so much time mourning the loss of my marriage that I hadn't considered the possibility of a future beyond the pain. Meeting Jason, facing my fears, and talking through my feelings with a therapist had all been steps toward healing. I started to focus on building a new life, not just for myself, but for my kids. We created new routines and new traditions, and slowly the wounds began to heal. It wasn't perfect, and there were still days filled with anger and sadness, but there were also days filled with laughter and hope. A year after that fateful revelation, I found myself looking forward more than backward. The pain of the past had not disappeared, but it had become a part of my journey, a chapter in the story of my life. And as I stood at the edge of this new chapter, I realized that I had the strength to keep moving forward, no matter what lay ahead. The temporary separation was a mutual decision, one we both hoped would provide clarity and space to think. Kate moved in with her friend Amanda, and I stayed in our house with the kids. It was a strange, unsettling feeling. The house felt both familiar and alien without her presence. The silence was deafening. Emily and Michael struggled with the new arrangement. Michael retreated into his room playing video games to escape reality, while Emily became more withdrawn and sullen. I tried my best to keep things as normal as possible, but there was no denying the change that had enveloped our family. One evening, I found Emily sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at her homework. She looked up as I entered the room, her eyes reflecting a mix of anger and sadness. "Dad, why did Mom have to leave?" "Why couldn't you two just work it out?" she asked, her voice trembling. I sat down across from her, trying to find the right words. "Emily, your mom and I have been having problems for a while. Sometimes people grow apart. It doesn't mean we don't love you and Michael any less. But it's not fair," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "I hate this." "I know it's hard," I said, reaching out to hold her hand. "But we're going to get through this together. I promise." The weeks turned into months, and I did my best to establish a new routine. I took over the household chores, making sure the kids had everything they needed. I cooked dinners, helped with homework, and tried to fill the void left by Kate's absence. It was exhausting, but it also brought me closer to Emily and Michael. We started having movie nights and game nights, trying to create new memories amidst the chaos. During this time, I continued my sessions with the therapist. It was a lifeline, a way to process my emotions and gain perspective. I learned to forgive myself for the mistakes I had made, and to accept that not everything was within my control. One weekend, I decided to take the kids on a short trip to the mountains. It was something we used to do as a family, and I hoped it would bring a sense of normalcy. The fresh air and scenic views provided a much-needed escape from the tension at home. As we hiked along a trail, Michael walked beside me, unusually quiet. I decided to break the silence. "How are you holding up, buddy?" I asked gently. He shrugged, kicking a pebble down the path. "I don't know. It's weird without Mom around. I miss her." "I miss her too," I admitted. "But she's not gone forever. We're just trying to figure things out." Michael looked up at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and hope. "Do you think she'll come back?" "I don't know, Michael," I said honestly, "but no matter what happens, we'll always be a family. And we'll always have each other." The trip helped us bond, and for a brief moment, the weight of our situation seemed lighter. But as we returned home, the reality of our separation settled back in. Kate and I continued to talk, mostly about the kids and practical matters. Our conversations were civil but lacked the warmth and intimacy we once shared. One evening, Kate called to check in on the kids. After speaking with Emily and Michael, she asked to talk to me. "How are you holding up, Noman?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. "I'm managing," I replied. "It's not easy, but we're getting by." "I've been thinking a lot," she said hesitantly. "About us, about everything. This time apart has been difficult, but it's also given me clarity." I felt a lump form in my throat. "And what have you realized?" "I realize that I miss you, I miss our family. But I also know that things can't go back to the way they were. We both need to work on ourselves if we want any chance of moving forward." Her words hung in the air, a mix of hope and uncertainty. "I've been seeing a therapist," I admitted. "It's been helping me understand my feelings and what went wrong." "That's good to hear," Kate said softly. "I've been doing the same. Maybe we could try couples therapy? See if there's a way to rebuild what we had?" The idea of couples therapy was daunting, but it also offered a glimmer of hope. "I'd be willing to try," I said, my heart pounding. We agreed to start therapy together, hoping it would provide the guidance we needed to navigate this tumultuous time. It wasn't a guarantee that we would reconcile, but it was a step towards understanding and healing. The first session was awkward and emotionally charged. We talked about our grievances, our regrets, and our fears. The therapist helped us communicate in ways we hadn't been able to before. It was a painful process, but also cathartic. As weeks turned into months, we continued our sessions, slowly peeling back the layers of hurt and resentment. We began to see each other not as adversaries, but as partners who had lost their way. The journey was far from over, but we were making progress. During this time, I also focused on myself. I started running more regularly, finding solace in the rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement. I reconnected with old friends, allowing myself to laugh and enjoy life's simple pleasures. I began to see that I was not just a husband or a father, but an individual with my own needs and dreams. The temporary separation, though painful, had given me the space to rediscover myself and what I wanted out of life. It also helped me see Kate in a new light, not just as my wife, but as a person with her struggles and desires. As we continued to navigate this new phase of our relationship, one thing became clear. No matter the outcome, we were both committed to doing what was best for our children and ourselves. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of hope and possibility for the future. The decision for Kate to move back in was not made lightly. It came after months of therapy, countless conversations, and a mutual understanding that if we were to rebuild our relationship, we needed to be under the same roof. This was not just for our sake, but for Emily and Michael, who had been caught in the crossfire of our separation. The day Kate returned, the air was thick with a mix of tension and hope. Emily and Michael were at school, and Kate and I stood in the living room, surrounded by boxes. It felt surreal, like the beginning of a new chapter that neither of us had fully written yet. "Welcome home," I said, attempting a smile. Kate looked around, taking in the familiar surroundings. "Thanks, Noman. It feels strange, but good." We spent the morning unpacking her things, trying to re-establish a sense of normalcy. There were awkward moments, times when we reached for the same item or bumped into each other in the hallway, but we managed to navigate the discomfort with patience and understanding. That evening, we sat down for dinner as a family for the first time in months. Emily and Michael were cautious but visibly relieved to have their mother back. The conversation was tentative at first, filled with small talk about school and activities, but gradually it began to feel like old times. "Mom, are you staying for good this time?" Michael asked, his eyes searching for reassurance. Kate reached across the table and took his hand. "Yes, Michael, I'm here to stay. Your dad and I are working things out, and we're committed to being a family." Emily looked at me, her expression a mix of skepticism and hope. "Is that true, Dad?" I nodded, meeting her gaze. "Yes, it is. We're taking things one day at a time, but we're doing this together." After dinner, Kate and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. It was a moment of quiet reflection, the first time we had been alone since she moved back in. "Do you think we can make this work?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I believe we can," I said, taking her hand. "It won't be easy, and we have a lot to work through. But I believe in us." The next few weeks were a test of our resolve. We continued with couples therapy, addressing the underlying issues that had driven us apart. Communication was key, and we both made an effort to be open and honest about our feelings. It was difficult, often painful, but it was also healing. Kate and I started to rediscover the things that had drawn us to each other in the first place. We spent time doing activities we both enjoyed, like hiking and cooking. We laughed together and shared stories from our day, and slowly, the walls between us began to come down. One evening, after the kids had gone to bed, Kate and I sat on the couch, a glass of wine in hand. We talked about the future, our hopes and fears, and the possibility of renewing our vows. "Do you think we can truly start over?" she asked, her eyes searching mine for reassurance. "I think we can," I said, my voice firm. "But it won't be about starting over. It's about building something new from what we have now. We've both changed, and we need to embrace that." As the weeks turned into months, we continued to rebuild our relationship. We established new routines and traditions, finding joy in the simple moments. Emily and Michael began to relax, their initial wariness giving way to a sense of stability and normalcy. One weekend, we decided to take a family trip to the beach. It was a place filled with memories, and we hoped to create new ones. As we walked along the shore, the kids ran ahead, their laughter echoing in the salty air. Kate slipped her hand into mine, and I felt a surge of hope. "This feels right," she said, her voice soft. "It does," I agreed. "We're stronger now because we've faced our problems and come out the other side." The trip was a turning point, a confirmation that we were on the right path. We still had our challenges, but we faced them together as a united front. As time went on, our relationship continued to evolve. We learned to appreciate each other's strengths and to support each other's weaknesses. We made a conscious effort to keep the lines of communication open, to be present in each other's lives, and to prioritize our relationship. The day we renewed our vows was one of the most meaningful moments of my life. It wasn't about erasing the past, but about acknowledging it and committing to a future built on love, trust, and mutual respect. Standing before our friends and family, I looked into Kate's eyes and saw the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But I also saw someone stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever. And I knew that together we could face whatever challenges life threw our way. As we exchanged vows, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. We had been through so much, but we had emerged stronger, more united, and more committed to each other. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a deep sense of peace and contentment. We had found our way back to each other, not by ignoring our problems, but by facing them head-on and choosing to fight for our family. And as I looked at Kate, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together, hand in hand, as partners and as a family. Rebuilding trust was perhaps the most challenging part of our journey. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it takes time and effort to restore. For Kate and me, it meant facing our insecurities, being vulnerable, and consistently showing up for each other. One of the first steps in rebuilding trust was to create a space for transparency. We established an open-door policy where we could talk about anything without fear of judgment or anger. It was difficult at first, as old habits and defensive mechanisms were hard to break, but we both understood that honesty was the foundation of trust. "Can we talk about what happened today?" Kate asked one evening as we sat on the porch, the kids already asleep. I turned to her, sensing the gravity of her tone. "Of course. What's on your mind?" "I ran into Jason at the grocery store," she said, her eyes searching mine for a reaction. A knot formed in my stomach at the mention of his name, but I took a deep breath and nodded. "And how did that go?" "It was brief," she said, her voice steady but cautious. "We exchanged pleasantries and went our separate ways. But it made me realize that I need to be upfront with you about these encounters. I don't want any secrets between us." I appreciated her honesty, even though hearing about Jason was uncomfortable. "Thank you for telling me, Kate. I trust that you handled it appropriately." "And I agree, no secrets. These conversations, though difficult, became a vital part of our healing process. We learned to discuss our fears and insecurities openly. I shared my concerns about feeling inadequate or replaced, and Kate expressed her fears of not being forgiven or fully trusted. These dialogues, guided by our counselor, allowed us to address the underlying issues and build a stronger foundation. Another critical aspect of rebuilding trust was consistency in our actions. We needed to show each other, day in and day out, that we were committed to our relationship. For me, it meant being present and attentive, not just physically but emotionally. I made a conscious effort to listen, to engage, and to be there for Kate in ways I hadn't been before. One afternoon, I came home early from work, surprising Kate with a bouquet of her favorite flowers. She looked up from her book, a smile spreading across her face. "What's the occasion?" she asked, taking the flowers and inhaling their sweet fragrance. "Just wanted to remind you how much I appreciate you," I said, sitting down next to her. "I know we've been through a lot, and I want you to know that I'm committed to making this work." Her eyes softened, and she leaned in to kiss me. "Thank you, Noman. I appreciate that more than you know." Small gestures like these, coupled with our ongoing communication, helped to slowly rebuild the trust that had been shattered. We also made sure to carve out time for each other, going on regular dates and finding moments of connection amidst our busy lives. These dates weren't extravagant, often just a walk in the park or a quiet dinner at home, but they allowed us to reconnect and reinforce our commitment. Our kids played a significant role in this journey as well. Emily and Michael needed to see that we were united, that our efforts were genuine, and that our family was healing. We involved them in our progress, sharing age-appropriate insights and encouraging open discussions about their feelings. One evening, during one of our family game nights, Emily looked up from her cards and asked, "Are you and Mom okay now?" Kate and I exchanged a glance, and I smiled reassuringly. "We're working hard on it, Emily. We're not perfect, but we're committed to each other and our family, and we're making progress every day." Michael nodded, his young face serious. "I like seeing you both happy. It makes me feel safe." "That's our goal," Kate said, reaching out to ruffle his hair. "We want you both to feel safe and loved." Our efforts to rebuild trust extended beyond our immediate family. We reached out to friends and extended family members, sharing our journey and seeking their support. It was humbling to admit our struggles, but it also strengthened our connections with those who cared about us. In one particularly memorable moment, we hosted a small gathering at our home, inviting close friends and family. It was a celebration of our progress and a chance to thank everyone who had supported us. As we raised our glasses in a toast, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. "To new beginnings," I said, looking around at the smiling faces, "and to the strength of love and family." The journey of rebuilding trust was ongoing, and there were still moments of doubt and fear. But with each passing day, the foundation we were laying became stronger. Kate and I learned to trust ourselves and each other, to forgive, and to move forward. As the months turned into a year, the changes in our relationship became evident. The laughter returned, the small gestures of affection became second nature, and the open, honest communication became a cornerstone of our lives. Trust, once broken, had been painstakingly rebuilt, not just in grand gestures, but in the everyday moments that made up our life together. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Kate leaned her head on my shoulder. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" I wrapped my arm around her, feeling a profound sense of peace. "We have, and I'm grateful for every step of the journey." The road ahead was still uncertain, but we faced it together, fortified by the trust and love we had rebuilt. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly hopeful about the future. As our relationship continued to strengthen, we found ourselves looking towards the future with renewed optimism. The journey of rebuilding trust had been arduous, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. Now, as we stood on the precipice of a new chapter in our lives, we felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. One of the most significant changes in our mindset was our willingness to embrace change and uncertainty. We had learned that life was unpredictable, and trying to control every aspect of it only led to disappointment and frustration. Instead, we chose to focus on what we could control: our attitudes, our actions, and our commitment to each other. "We can't predict what the future holds," I said to Kate one evening as we sat on the porch sipping tea. "But we can face it together, with courage and resilience." Kate nodded, her eyes reflecting the flickering light of the candles on the table. I used to be so afraid of uncertainty, of not knowing what would happen next. But now I see it as an opportunity for growth and adventure. Our newfound perspective allowed us to dream again, to imagine a future filled with possibilities. We talked about traveling together, exploring new places, and experiencing different cultures. We made plans for the kids: college visits, family vacations, and milestone celebrations. And we dared to envision a life that was not just about surviving but thriving. One of the biggest changes we made was in our approach to work-life balance. We had both been guilty of letting our careers consume us, often at the expense of our relationship and our family. But now, we prioritized quality time together, setting boundaries and making time for the things that truly mattered. "I don't want to look back and regret not spending enough time with you and the kids," Kate said one evening, her voice tinged with determination. "I feel the same way," I admitted. "We've missed out on so much already. It's time to put our family first." We made a conscious effort to carve out time for family dinners, game nights, and weekend adventures. We also started a tradition of annual family vacations, choosing destinations that allowed us to reconnect and create lasting memories together. One summer, we rented a cabin in the mountains and spent a week hiking, fishing, and stargazing. It was a simple yet profound experience, a chance to unplug from the distractions of everyday life and reconnect with nature and each other. As we sat around the campfire, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Our relationship with Emily and Michael continued to evolve as well. They were growing into independent young adults with their hopes, dreams, and aspirations. We encouraged them to pursue their passions and supported them in their endeavors, whether it was Emily's interest in photography or Michael's love of music. "Thank you for believing in us," Emily said one evening, her eyes shining with gratitude, "for giving us the space to explore who we are and who we want to become." "It's the least we can do," Kate replied, reaching out to squeeze her hand. "We want you both to feel supported and empowered to chase your dreams." As our family flourished, so too did our pursuits. I started a side business, pursuing my passion for woodworking and craftsmanship. Kate enrolled in a photography course, rediscovering her love for capturing moments and telling stories through images. These creative outlets not only brought us joy but also gave us a sense of purpose and fulfillment outside of our roles as partners and parents. But perhaps the most significant change of all was in our relationship with each other. We had weathered the storms of the past, and in doing so, had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more deeply connected than ever before. We continued to prioritize our relationship, making time for regular date nights and weekend getaways. We also committed to keep communication open and honest, to never take each other for granted, and to always show appreciation and love. One evening, as we celebrated our anniversary with a quiet dinner at home, I took Kate's hand and looked into her eyes. "I'm so grateful for you," I said, my voice filled with emotion, "for your strength, your love, and your unwavering commitment to our family." She smiled, her eyes sparkling with tears. "And I'm grateful for you, Noman, for never giving up on us, even when things seemed impossible." As we toasted to another year together, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey we had been on. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. And as we embraced the future with open hearts and open minds, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, hand in hand, as partners, as parents, and as soulmates. As our journey continued, we found ourselves celebrating not only the milestones of our relationship, but also the individual achievements and moments of joy that filled our lives. These celebrations became markers of our progress, reminders of how far we had come and how much we had overcome together. One of the first milestones we celebrated was our anniversary. Not just the anniversary of our wedding, but the day we renewed our vows. It was a day filled with love and gratitude, a chance to reflect on the journey that had brought us to this point and to reaffirm our commitment to each other. "We've been through so much together," Kate said as we sat down for dinner at our favorite restaurant. "But I wouldn't change a thing. Our struggles have made us stronger." I reached across the table and took her hand, feeling a surge of love and admiration. "I couldn't agree more. Here's to many more years of love and laughter." As we toasted to our future, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Our relationship had weathered countless storms, but it had also blossomed in the sunshine of our love and dedication. Another milestone we celebrated was Emily's high school graduation. It was a bittersweet moment, filled with pride and nostalgia as we watched our daughter walk across the stage to receive her diploma. "I can't believe she's all grown up," Kate said, wiping away tears of joy. "It feels like just yesterday she was a little girl running around the backyard." I wrapped my arm around her, feeling a lump form in my throat. "She's become an incredible young woman, Kate, and we played a part in shaping who she is today." As Emily threw her cap into the air and joined us for a family hug, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Our journey as parents had been filled with ups and downs, but seeing Emily's smile as she celebrated this milestone made it all worth it. Michael's graduation followed a few years later, marking the end of another chapter in our family's story. As he received his diploma and looked out into the crowd, I could see the same mixture of pride and nostalgia in his eyes that I had seen in Emily's. "You did it, buddy," I said, pulling him into a hug after the ceremony. "We're so proud of you." He grinned, a mixture of excitement and relief on his face. "Thanks, Dad. I couldn't have done it without your support." As we celebrated Michael's achievement with a backyard barbecue surrounded by friends and family, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Our family had come a long way since the days of uncertainty and strife, and these moments of celebration were a testament to our resilience and love. But perhaps the most meaningful milestone we celebrated was the birth of our first grandchild. It was a moment of pure joy, a chance to welcome a new life into the world and to experience the miracle of parenthood all over again. "Can you believe we're grandparents?" Kate said, tears of joy streaming down her face as she held our granddaughter for the first time. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling a lump form in my throat. "It's incredible, Kate, and I couldn't imagine sharing this moment with anyone else." As we watched our children become parents and our families grow with the addition of a new generation, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Our journey had been filled with challenges and triumphs, but through it all, our love had remained constant, a guiding light in the darkness. As we celebrated these milestones, we also made a point to reflect on the journey that had brought us to this point. We shared stories, looked through old photo albums, and reminisced about the moments that had shaped our lives. These reflections were a reminder of the strength and resilience of our family, and a testament to the power of love to overcome even the greatest of obstacles. As we looked towards the future, I knew that there would be more milestones to come: graduations, weddings, and births. Each one a chance to celebrate the bonds that held us together. And as we embraced these moments with open hearts and open minds, I knew that our journey was far from over. It was just beginning. As our journey continued, we found ourselves in a new phase of life, one characterized by reflection, gratitude, and a sense of passing the torch to the next generation. Our children were grown, with lives and families of their own, and we were faced with the task of imparting the wisdom and values that had guided us through our journey. One of the first steps in this process was to revisit our family history, to share stories and memories from our upbringing with our children and grandchildren. We gathered around the dinner table, passing around old photo albums and sharing anecdotes from our childhoods. "I remember when I was your age," I said, smiling at Emily and Michael. "Your grandfather used to take us fishing every summer. It was one of my favorite memories growing up." Emily laughed, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. "Tell us more, Dad. What was it like?" And so I regaled them with tales of summers spent by the lake, of early mornings and late nights, of the thrill of catching that first fish, and the quiet moments of reflection as we watched the sunset over the water. It was a chance to connect with my children in a new way, to share a piece of myself with them, and to pass on the traditions and values that had shaped my upbringing. Kate shared her own stories as well, painting vivid pictures of her childhood adventures and the lessons she had learned along the way. We talked about the importance of family, of hard work and perseverance, of kindness and compassion. And as we shared these stories with our children and grandchildren, I felt a deep sense of pride and gratitude. Another important aspect of passing the torch was to lead by example, to show our children and grandchildren what it meant to live a life filled with purpose and meaning. We volunteered together at the local soup kitchen, helping to feed the homeless and less fortunate. We participated in community cleanup projects, working side by side to make our neighborhood a better place for future generations. And we made a conscious effort to live our lives with integrity and authenticity, to be the kind of role models that our children could look up to and aspire to emulate. "Thank you for showing us what it means to give back," Emily said one evening as we finished up at the soup kitchen. "It feels good to make a difference." Kate smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "You're welcome, sweetheart. It's important to use our time and talents to help those in need." As our children and grandchildren grew older, they began to take on more responsibilities of their own, stepping into leadership roles within their communities and finding ways to make a positive impact on the world. And as we watched them flourish and grow, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity to be a part of their journey. But perhaps the most important aspect of passing the torch was to instill in our children and grandchildren the importance of family, of love, support, and connection. We made a point to gather together regularly for holidays and special occasions, but also everyday moments of joy and celebration. We shared meals and laughter, stories and memories, creating a sense of belonging and unity that would carry us through the challenges of life. "I'm so grateful for our family," Michael said one evening as we sat around the fire pit in the backyard, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. "I don't know where I'd be without you guys." Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked around at the faces of my loved ones. "We feel the same way, Michael. Our family is our greatest treasure, and we'll always be here for each other no matter what." As we passed the torch to the next generation, I knew that our journey was far from over. It was just beginning. As we watched our children and grandchildren take their place in the world, I felt a profound sense of pride and gratitude for the legacy we had built together. As our journey continued, we found ourselves reflecting on the legacy we wanted to leave behind, not just for our children and grandchildren, but for future generations to come. Our experiences had taught us the importance of love, resilience, and the power of human connection, and we wanted to pass on these lessons to those who would come after us. One of the ways we sought to preserve our legacy was through storytelling. We compiled our family history into a book, weaving together the stories and memories that had shaped our lives. From the trials and triumphs of our ancestors to the challenges and joys of our journey, the book served as a testament to the resilience and strength of the human spirit. "We want our children and grandchildren to know where they come from," Kate said as we put the finishing touches on the book, "to understand the sacrifices and struggles that have brought us to this point." I nodded in agreement, feeling a sense of pride as I flipped through the pages. Our story is a testament to the power of love to overcome even the greatest of obstacles, and I hope it inspires future generations to never give up, no matter what life throws their way. Another way we sought to preserve our legacy was through philanthropy. We established a family foundation, dedicated to supporting causes that were near and dear to our hearts: education, healthcare, and environmental conservation. We wanted to leave the world a better place than we found it, and we knew that investing in these causes would have a lasting impact on future generations. "We have been blessed in so many ways," I said as we signed the paperwork to establish the foundation. "And it's our responsibility to pay it forward, to make a difference in the lives of others." Kate smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "I couldn't agree more. Our legacy isn't just about what we leave behind. It's about the lives we touch and the hearts we inspire. As our family foundation grew and flourished, we saw the impact of our philanthropy firsthand. Scholarships were awarded to deserving students, hospitals were built in underserved communities, and conservation efforts helped to preserve endangered habitats. Each act of kindness and generosity was a testament to the legacy of love that we had worked so hard to build. But perhaps the most important aspect of our legacy was the love and connection we shared and with our family. We made a point to cherish every moment together, to express our love and appreciation openly and often. We laughed together, cried together, and supported each other through the ups and downs of life. "I'm so grateful for our family," Emily said one evening as we gathered for dinner, "for the love and support we share and for the memories we've created together." Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked around at the faces of my loved ones. "Our family is our greatest treasure," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "And I'm so grateful for the legacy of love that we've built together." As we embraced each other in a group hug, I knew that our legacy would live on, not just in the pages of a book or the walls of a hospital, but in the hearts of those we had touched along the way. And as we looked towards the future with hope and gratitude, I knew that our journey was far from over. It was just beginning. As our journey continued, we found ourselves confronted with the inevitable passage of time, a reminder of the fragility and preciousness of life. We experienced the joys of new beginnings and the pain of loss. And through it all, we were reminded of the interconnectedness of all things and the cyclical nature of existence. One of the most profound experiences we faced was the birth of our great-grandchild. It was a moment of pure joy and wonder, a chance to witness the miracle of life unfolding before our eyes. As we held the tiny bundle in our arms, we were filled with a sense of awe and gratitude for the beauty and complexity of the world. "Our family has come full circle," Kate said as she gazed down at the sleeping baby. "It's incredible to think about all the generations that have come before us and all the generations that will come after." I nodded in agreement, feeling a lump form in my throat. Life is a beautiful tapestry woven together by the threads of love and connection, and this little one is a reminder of the legacy we leave behind. As we watched our children and grandchildren dote on the newest addition to our family, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Our family had grown and flourished over the years, and now, as we welcomed a new generation into the fold, I knew that our legacy would live on for generations to come. But with the joy of new life also came the pain of loss. We experienced the passing of loved ones, grandparents, parents, and friends who had played a significant role in shaping our lives. It was a time of mourning and reflection, a chance to honor the memories and legacies of those who had come before us. "We carry their love with us always," I said as we gathered with family and friends to celebrate the life of a dear friend. "Their influence lives on in the lessons they taught us, the stories they shared, and the love they bestowed upon us." Kate nodded, her eyes filled with tears. "They may be gone, but they will never be forgotten. Their spirit lives on in the hearts of all who knew them." As we said our final goodbyes and laid our loved ones to rest, I felt a profound sense of loss. But I also felt a deep gratitude for the time we had shared, for the love and memories that would live on in our hearts forever. As our journey continued, we found ourselves embracing the circle of life, the interconnectedness of all things, the ebb and flow of joy and sorrow. We celebrated the milestones and mourned the losses, knowing that each experience was a part of the rich tapestry of life. And through it all, we found solace in the love and support of our family and friends, in the memories and legacies of those who had come before us, and in the knowledge that life is a precious gift to be cherished and savored, each moment a reminder of the beauty and wonder of existence. As our journey nears its conclusion, we find ourselves reflecting on the lessons learned, the challenges overcome, and the moments of joy and sorrow that have shaped our lives. In this final chapter, we explore the importance of finding peace and gratitude as we navigate the complexities of life. One of the most significant realizations we've had is the importance of finding peace within ourselves. Throughout our journey, we've faced countless trials and tribulations, But through it all, we've learned to cultivate a sense of inner calm and resilience. Whether through meditation, mindfulness practices, or simply taking time to connect with nature, we've discovered the power of finding stillness amidst the chaos. "I used to let my worries consume me," Kate said one evening as we watched the sunset from our porch. "But now, I've learned to surrender to the ebb and flow of life, to trust that everything will unfold as it should." I nodded in agreement, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. It's amazing how much lighter life feels when you let go of the need to control everything. When you surrender to the flow, you realize that everything is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. Finding gratitude has also been a guiding principle in our lives. In moments of struggle and adversity, we've learned to shift our focus from what we lack to what we have, from what's wrong to what's right. By cultivating an attitude of gratitude, we've been able to find beauty and blessings even in the darkest of times. "Gratitude is like a beacon of light in the darkness," I said one evening as we gathered around the dinner table. "It reminds us of the abundance that surrounds us, even amid scarcity." Kate smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I'm grateful for every moment we've shared, for the love and laughter, the tears and triumphs, for the journey that has brought us to this point." As we reflected on our journey, we realized that finding peace and gratitude wasn't about denying the challenges or pretending that everything was perfect. It was about embracing life in all its messy, imperfect glory, the highs and the lows, the joy and the pain. It was about learning to dance in the rain, to find beauty amid the storm. And as we embraced these principles in our daily lives, we found that they brought us a sense of fulfillment and contentment that we had never known before. We no longer chased after happiness as some distant destination, but found it in the simple moments. A shared laugh, a warm hug, a quiet moment of reflection. As our journey comes to a close, we find ourselves filled with gratitude for the experiences we've shared, the lessons we've learned, and the love that has sustained us through it all. And as we look towards the future with open hearts and open minds, we know that whatever challenges may come our way, we will face them with courage, resilience, and an unwavering sense of peace and gratitude. As we come to the final chapter of our story, we find ourselves reflecting on the journey we've taken, the experiences we've shared, and the legacy we leave behind. It's a time for introspection, for looking back on the moments that have shaped us, and looking forward to the legacy we will leave for future generations. Throughout our lives, we've faced countless challenges and triumphs, joys and sorrows. But through it all, we've remained steadfast in our commitment to each other and our family. We've learned that life is not always easy, but it is always worth living to the fullest. "I wouldn't change a thing," Kate said one evening as we sat by the fireplace, reminiscing about the adventures we'd shared. Every twist and turn, every up and down, it's all led us to this moment. I nodded in agreement, feeling a sense of gratitude for the journey we've taken together. Our life together has been an incredible adventure, Kate, and I'm grateful for every moment we've shared. As we reflect on our journey, we realize that our legacy is not just about the things we've accomplished or the milestones we've reached. It's about the love we've shared, the connections we've forged, and the impact we've had on the lives of those around us. "Our legacy is in the hearts and minds of our loved ones," I said, reaching out to hold Kate's hand. "It's in the memories we've created together, the lessons we've taught, and the love we've shared." As we look towards the future, we do so with a sense of peace and contentment, knowing that our journey has been one of purpose and meaning. We may not have all the answers, but we've learned to trust in the journey, to embrace the unknown with open hearts and open minds. And so, as we close this chapter of our story, we do so with hearts full of gratitude for the life we've lived, the love we've shared, and the legacy we leave behind. Our journey may be coming to an end, but our love will live on in the hearts of those we leave behind, a reminder of the beauty and the wonder of a life well lived. As we conclude our narrative, we acknowledge that while our journey may be coming to a close, the legacy we leave behind continues to ripple through time, touching the lives of countless others. In this final chapter, we explore the idea that our legacy is not bound by the confines of our existence, but is instead an ever-expanding tapestry woven into the fabric of the universe. Throughout our lives, we've sought to make a positive impact on the world around us, to leave behind a legacy of love, compassion, and kindness. Whether through our relationships with family and friends, our contributions to our community, or our efforts to protect and preserve the natural world, we've strived to leave the world a better place than we found it. Our legacy is not just about what we leave behind, Kate said one evening as we sat under the stars, reflecting on the journey we've taken. It's about the lives we've touched, the hearts we've inspired, and the ripple effects that continue long after we're gone. I nodded in agreement, feeling a sense of awe and wonder at the interconnectedness of all things. Our legacy is like a pebble dropped into a pond, creating ripples that spread outwards in ever-widening circles, touching the lives of countless others. As we reflect on our legacy, we realize that it's not just about the tangible accomplishments or the material possessions we leave behind. It's about the impact we've had on the hearts and minds of those we've encountered along the way. It's about the memories we've created, the lessons we've taught, and the love we've shared. And so, as we bid farewell to this chapter of our story, we do so with hearts full of gratitude for the journey we've taken, the lessons we've learned, and the love that has sustained us through it all. Our legacy may be finite, but its impact is infinite, stretching far beyond the boundaries of time and space, and continuing to inspire future generations for years to come. As we step boldly into the unknown, we do so with a sense of peace and contentment, knowing that our legacy will live on in the hearts and minds of those we leave behind. And as we embrace the endless possibilities of the future, we do so with open hearts and open minds, ready to continue the journey of love, growth, and discovery that stretches out before us into eternity. As our story draws to a close, we find ourselves standing on the threshold of a new beginning. In this final chapter, we explore the idea of endings as opportunities for fresh starts and new adventures. Throughout our lives, we've experienced countless endings, the end of relationships, the end of careers, the end of chapters in our journeys. And while endings can often be accompanied by feelings of sadness or loss, they also present us with the opportunity for growth, transformation, and renewal. I used to be afraid of endings, Kate said one evening as we watched the sunset from our favorite spot by the lake. But now I see them as opportunities for new beginnings, a chance to reinvent ourselves and create the life we truly want. I nodded in agreement, feeling a sense of excitement for the possibilities that lay ahead. Endings are not the end of the road, but the beginning of a new chapter, and I can't wait to see what adventures await us. As we reflect on the endings we've experienced throughout our lives, we realize that each one has been a stepping stone on the path to where we are today. They've taught us valuable lessons, helped us to let go of what no longer serves us, and cleared the way for new opportunities to emerge. And so, as we bid farewell to this chapter of our story, we do so with hearts full of gratitude for the journey we've taken and the lessons we've learned along the way. We step boldly into the unknown, ready to embrace the endless possibilities that lie ahead and to create a new beginning filled with love, joy, and adventure. As the sun sets on this chapter of our lives, we welcome the dawn of a new day with open arms and open hearts, knowing that the best is yet to come. As we embark on this new beginning together, we do so with a sense of excitement, anticipation, and an unwavering belief in the power of love to guide us through whatever challenges may come our way.